blind man, the single story is something I have to deal with on a daily basis. Basically, you know, when people see you as blind, it tends to color everything they think about you. For instance, they almost always take it for granted that you're probably not leading a fulfilling life. Now, I'm not saying that blindness isn't a challenge. It's a huge challenge. But I think that, you know, we all have to face various challenges in our daily life. So sure, it's tougher, but it's a challenge like other challenges. Another thing which really bothers me is that when I try to explain to people, you know, well, apart from blindness, you know, life has been pretty kind to me. I know that they immediately file me into another single story category, you know, the courageous guy who always puts up a brave face. So there's nothing I can do to get people to see me for what I am. And you know what? I'm just as likely as the next person to fall into the dangers of the single story. Well, for instance, you tell me some kid is studying at ESSEC, and immediately the stereotype pops up in my mind. You tell me you're from a Greek background? Oh, well, I take it for granted that you were brought up eating dolma and that you were given sirtaki lessons. By now, you've probably guessed that I've come here today with one goal in mind, and that's to help you do away with the single story concerning blind people. I'll start by telling you why I became a translator. The chief reason is that I love reading and I love words. Over the course of my life, I've been fortunate enough that I've gotten to taste words with 3 different body parts. With my ears, with my eyes, and with my fingers. I know that the way I'm putting this in a pretty flippant fashion might give the impression that I'm only half serious, but that's not at all the case. I deeply believe that these 3 phases have shaped me into a singular type of reader. Let's start with the ears, because for most of us, that's where stories begin. With our mother or grandmother's voice, reading aloud to us, telling us stories. So at the onset, words are intimately linked to the sounds of the human voice, to the rhythms of the human voice, and to someone's breathing. And as a translator, although the words you write are not necessarily meant to be read aloud, you're always looking in your writing for words with an inner rhythm, with a flow. Later on, around 6 or 7, we all learn how to read with our eyes. Now, I read that way for over 20 years. So I know what letters look like. I know that feeling you get from letting your eyes flow over the letters, over the words, you know, down the line and down the page. And I know that that hypnotic power which those strange symbols hold over our minds. However, when I was 30, my eyesight had become quite poor, so I got to learn Braille. Now, for a curious mind like mine, the experience itself was quite intriguing. And oddly enough, as I was learning how to read with my fingers, I got the feeling that this very physical endeavor connected me somehow with writing in its various forms over the centuries. For instance, when my forefingers were moving along the Braille characters and down the page, I felt like an Egyptian scribe carving out his tablets, or even like a medieval monk, toiling away with his quill, or like an 18th century typographer setting out type. And also, reading with my fingers gave me this strange feeling that I was carving the words into my body. However, when you learn Braille late in life, like I did, you never become a truly proficient reader. So the only option which ensures a decent productivity is speech. So for me, it was back to square one, back to working with my ears. You could say I'd run the full circle. I said earlier that I became a translator because I love reading and I love words, but that's only half the story. Another factor played a crucial role. When I was 7, my father landed a job at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. So I got to live for 9 years in the States. I learned English by playing with the kids on the block and by watching cartoons on TV. Prior to moving to the States, we lived in a small provincial town at the foot of the Pyrenees. This to say, that it was quite a cultural shock for me. You probably have a tough time imagining today what the gap was in the early 70s between provincial France and the US. Now, I'd led a perfectly happy childhood in France, but when I got to the States, it really felt like an altogether different planet. And so started my lifelong love affair with the English language. However, when my father was, when I was 16, I had to leave as my father was named elsewhere. And I must admit that at first I had quite a tough time finding my bearings in Europe. I would always, be thinking of the States and reading American novels, reading American papers. I would even listen to the Baseball World Series on the Armed Forces Radio Network at odd hours in the middle of the night because of the time difference. And through various twists of fate, after studying law and political science, I ended up working for a movie producer. I was paid, basically I was paid to read scripts and crime novels, thanks in great part to my fluent English. And the woman I was working for, who knew that my dream was to work in book publishing, she kept telling me, well, Frederick, with your knowledge of English, you should work as a translator. However, ever since leaving the States, the cohabitation between English and French had always been quite painful for me. I suppose that somewhere in my subconscious, there was this feeling, well, for one part, that French was never quite up to expressing what I felt in English. And for another part, I knew that I wasn't as fluent in French as a real native, because I was always prone to anglicism and other American-induced improprieties. So whenever the subject would come up with my boss, I would be quite adamant in telling her, oh no, there's no way I'll ever be a translator. Still, I started working on the side for book publishers, and I was paid to read American and British crime novels, and to write up a report so the publisher could decide whether that the book was worthy of translation. And one day I read a novel which so moved me that immediately, the impulse was there. I wanted to translate it. And so I came in with my report, and I started by hugely praising the book, and I ended by saying, oh, I'd really like to translate this novel. And so I was asked to submit a trial translation of the first page, and so things started. But for one minor detail, I started out as a translator when my sight was not that bad. But by the time I translated my third novel, my sight was too poor for me to go on that way. But that's another subject. If you want to know more about this, you can watch the video of a TEDx talk I gave at Centrale Nantes in November. I think now's a good time for me to give you a quick taste of what it sounds like to work with a talking computer. I'll try to make it back safely. Non? Là? Oh, voilà. Alors, what I'm going to do, I hope the computer is talking. Yeah, great. What I'm going to do, I'll make this very quick. I think you have on screen my desktop. So, well, but basically what I use is called a screen reader. And it has two functions. The first function is that the software will read the information on the screen and convert it in an intelligent way for me. For instance, it will tell me how many links there are on the page, how many screens, how many, etc., etc. And the second function of the software is that through keystroke combinations, it allows me to use various softwares to access the menus and to do without a mouse. I'll open up a dictionary so you see. Now here I'm on the desktop and I will Petit Robert, and I will open it up. So you see if I type in okay. So, just to give you a quick flavor of what it sounds like. Naturally, when you start out, you don't start out at that speed. You get there after years of practice. You start out, it's quite slower, but speed, and I don't listen to everything at that speed. That's the speed I use to navigate around the computer, to go from one software to another, just to gain time, to make it quicker. Just so you, I don't paint a too rosy picture. I want to show you that difficulties remain. I'll show you, for instance, the only American dictionary I'm able to use right now, the Merriam-Webster. I'll show you what I need to do if I want to use it. Okay, so I open up the dictionary. I'll type angel first. Okay. Now, often, people who bring out, dictionary software, they're very wary of protecting the content, and so they put up, protections. And so, for some reason which I've never been able to understand, my software will not access the window where the definition is. So, if I want the definition, I have to copy it and paste it. See, I open up WordPad and I copy it. Sorry. Je me suis gouré, pas bon. Sorry. I'll try it one last time, okay? Angel, I'll try A. I'm using the menus to copy definition. I still don't have it. Okay, so I won't waste too much time. Anyway, the gist of it is I have to go through the menus to copy the definition and then to copy it, to paste it into a Word into WordPad. So it's pretty tedious. When I try to find a comparison to tell people, to explain to people what a hassle it is, I usually say, imagine that when you want to check a word in the dictionary, that each time you want to check a word, you have to step up a ladder to take the dictionary on the topmost shelf, you take it down, you look up the definition, and then you put it back